So this misperception of seeing suffering as happiness, then you will never make an attempt to come out of the bondage, the cycle of existence. Okay, clear? Contrarily, if you have good understanding of the suffering, then because you do not like that state, that suffering, you will start looking for the cause of that suffering and will make an attempt to put an end to that suffering. For example, in this text, he gives the example. And for example, if you are staying in a dry land, sitting there, suddenly a lot of water came in, and your mats and clothes become wet, and then you start suffering from that contact with the water. And because you do not like that suffering from the water, you will then find out from where the water is coming. That's what we normally do. From where the water is coming. And having located the place from where the water is coming, you will be able to stop that. So therefore, you can clearly see that one, you need to know the suffering that comes from water. And then secondly, you need to know the well-being that you will get after having removed that humidity, that wetness. So therefore, whether it's experience of happiness or experience of suffering, it is important to identify them and find the causes and conditions for their arisal. Since it is happiness that we want, we should naturally look for the causes and conditions for that happiness and cultivate it. Since we do not suffering, we should identify similarly the causes and conditions for such suffering and eliminate them. So therefore, I was speaking about this 4 misperceptions. The misperception of seeing what is impermanent as permanent, the psychophysical aggregate as impermanent but perceiving it as permanent, the psychophysical aggregate leading to suffering but seeing it as source of happiness. Then this psychophysical aggregate is impure, unclean, but seeing it that as clean.
This three?
Third. Yeah, what is unclean, seeing what is unclean as clean. Much of the attachment and desire that we develop towards our body is because we have this misperception of seeing one's body as clean. Of course, again, if I ask you, is your body very clean? You will say yes. You will say no. But that's not how we live. With our unquestioning mind, we normally regard this body as something special, But in reality, as the Buddhist text says, that this body, if you scrutinize and see, it is made up of 36 different filthy substances. Be it the kidney, be it the lung, be it the blood, be it the bone, whatever you see it. Okay. So there's the nature. Now that is not to say that human life is not precious. The preciousness of human life comes not because of how your body is made of. The preciousness of human life is because of your intelligence, your capacity to judge between what is right and what is wrong. So therefore, if you change your mind, for example, in the beginning of Shantideva's Bodhicharya, he says that even though you have got this very impure, filthy body, but if you develop a mind of bodhicitta, it becomes a precious body, which has then the capacity to benefit countless people. The same body, fragile, impermanent, but the thing is, how are you going to use this body? The same body can be used as not only as suffering for oneself, but also suffering for many others. The same body can be a source not only of happiness to yourself, but many people. Like the body of the Buddha, or the body of His Holiness Dalai Lama, we call it meaningful to behold body. Meaningful to behold, meaningful to see body. There is just by seeing, your life becomes meaningful. Oh, I saw His Holiness. Oh, I saw the Buddha. You see? And because of his conditioning, with positive practices, it is said that the Buddha, even when people see the Buddha, the afflictive emotions just disappear. See? But when we see some ordinary people, the afflictive emotions increase, you see. There's the difference, you see. There's the difference. Okay. So therefore, then there's the thing. So we see this impure person or psychophysical aggregate as pure. It's another misperception leading to a lot of suffering. Then fourthly, the fourth misperception is seeing what is selfless having self. What is selfless as in having self. That means there is a self, of course. There is a self. But there is no self as we think. That's the point. Because we think that there is a self which is permanent, independent, source of well-being. So that kind of independently existing, permanently existing self is not there. So that's the meaning of selflessness. So now here, I think we'll get sometime maybe later on, but why wait? Later, explain it while I remember. You need to make this distinction. The self is there. The self is there. Conventionally existing self is there. There is a self, but there is no independently existing self. So make this distinction.
Not separated. One.
There is a self, but there is no independently existing self. The self exists. How does it exist? Dependently, not independently. And what is that self which exists? It's not your mind. It is not your body. It is merely an imputation, designation. Almost like many experiences put together, you give a designation, self. Continuous experiences, happenings related to the body, related to the mind. You call it self. So dependently existent self is there, but not independently existent self. So it may be in a way quite shocking it may be in a way quite shocking for us, because we always thought that I should not only exist, but exist independently. That is how we think. That's why we develop so much grasping to oneself. Especially, for example, if you get angry, you get this very strong sense of I existing on its own independently. And you will be bold and say, how come you, how dare you say this to me? To me. But then when you analyze, where is this I which is so forthcoming and so bold? Where is this I? Set it from top of your head down to the sole of your feet. You will not find such a self. This is a very not only important issue and reality, but very sophisticated. Not easy for us to believe. So this is happening not only in the case of the self, but in the case of every existent phenomena. That's what everything is in a flux. Everything is in a flux. That means everything is in a state of coming and going, you know. Scientifically, any scientist is here? No scientist. So if you use a big microscope, powerful microscope, and look at yourself. For example, look at the hand. When you look at the hand, it looks nice, you know, it's covered by smooth, you know, skin. So it looks nice, and we get attracted to this person, that person, looking so nice. But if you use a big microscope and look at the hand, it will not be smooth like this. It will be mountains and valleys. Mountains and valleys. But if you use a big microscope, not even mountains and valleys, but it is a bubbling of bubble-like things, you know, cells or whatever you call it, like hardly connected, disjointed things, you know. See, imagine the Buddha talked about this long time back when he had no microscope, nothing. So that's why we trust the Buddha's teaching so much, that what he taught was really something that he saw through his omniscient mind. And even with the physical things, the Buddhist texts explain, the Buddha explains how many bones are there in your body, how many joints are there in your body. And I brought this text with me, so I'll tell you how many joints you have. How many joints we have in our body? Huh? 200. Anyway, let us see. That will be interesting. So anyway, don't worry. I'll bring this text and we'll read. It will be fun. You know, okay, that is not so difficult. We can count, huh? Then it talks about how many hair poles, how many pores are there in the body. Can you count that one? Difficult job. No. The pores you hardly see, you know. How many hairs are there on the body? Of course, the Buddha says that it is not so much about gaining this kind of knowledge about material things. What is important is to really know what must be cultivated and what must be abandoned. That's the most important thing. But still, you can clearly see how much kind of knowledge he has in those times, 2,500 years back. Imagine. So therefore, the main thing that I was telling you was, things exist, but do not exist independently. Independent existence, dependent existence, they are mutually exclusive. They are mutually exclusive. That means a thing should either exist dependently or exist independently. It cannot be both, and it is not possible that it is neither of them. It has to be one of them. Cannot be both. So therefore, when we say things exist independently, but things exist, then there's only one way of existence, and that one way is
Depend.
exactly dependent existence. Now imagine this, if you understand this properly. Dependent existence. We are dependent upon the environment. The countries are dependent upon each other. The family members are dependent upon each other. Your mind and body are dependent upon each other. Your whole body is dependent upon the parts. The parts are dependent on the whole. If you understand this thing, again, as I was saying this morning, one aspect of the law of nature, you'll be able to solve many problems. Now, when you say you are dependent on certain things, naturally you need to take care of that on which you are dependent. It's common sense. So that's why His Holiness the Dalai Lama says that if somebody asks you, what is the Buddhist way of life? If somebody asks you, what is the Buddhist way of life? What is your answer? No.
Universal responsibility.
Oh, I think you people are not studying His Holiness teachings. So he says the Buddhist way of life is compassionate, non-violence, Buddhist way of life. If people ask you, what is the Buddhist thinking? What's the Buddhist philosophy? What is your answer? Huh?
Try to help if you cannot help, don't try. No.
There's no philosophy.
Philosophy.
Dependent origination. Right. Dependent origination. Somebody asks you, what is Buddhist way of life? Non-violence. What is Buddhist way of thinking or Buddhist philosophy? Dependent origination. Why you need to live a compassionate, non-violent life? Because
You are dependent.
exactly it comes from the philosophy, from the understanding that we are all dependent upon each other. Therefore, the solution lies in being, compassionate, non-violent, and harmony, than using force and violence. Now, non-violence does not mean mere absence of violence. Non-violence is not just absence of violence, but it is active practice of compassion. Because this microphone that I'm using right now is not harming anybody. Is it harming? It's not harming anybody. So it also has this quality of, being absent from violence. But we cannot say the microphone is practicing non-violence because there is no dynamic practice of compassion. There is no dynamism. This is very important to understand because many people, as I, slightly mentioned this morning, this is very important to understand because people think compassion means just sit there doing nothing, sorry, and sitting there doing nothing. No. Non-violence is not just sitting there doing anybody. That it means active practice of compassion, which means a dynamic force. You do not harm others because you see the reason that how much people are suffering, how much people are in need of help. So therefore you develop this compassion, which is not being able to tolerate the suffering of other sentient beings. When you develop this wish, how nice if all other sentient beings are without suffering, genuinely and sincerely, from the depth of your mind, naturally you will come out. Again, you can clearly see the compassion that we talk about, and we think we are developing is not compassion. Because there is no deep down feeling and concern for the sufferings of others. But if it is a genuine compassion based on your personal experience, then as Kamala Shila explains in his stages of meditation, the middling stages of meditation, that if a mother has only one child, and that only one child is very small, number one, not only small but very cute, is only her only child, very small, very cute, then the mother will have excessive love towards that child. And if that child, say, falls into fire or any, difficult situation, the mother, without hesitation, immediately will jump into the fire to save the life of this baby because she has total liking and commitment to their child. So similarly, if we have that kind of genuine compassion towards others, then like a mother will be readily available in addressing and solving their problems.
Is the mother compassionate or is she attached to the baby?
Of course, but still the love that the mother has to her child is much better than the love that the husband has to the wife or wife has to the husband. It's much more purer form. So even you can now, this is a good question because even when you have this kind of love, not necessarily completely pure and a lot of attachment there, even with that, you can sacrifice. Now imagine if you have a purer love, a love with wisdom, then the difference is not only you will be available there to help, but your process of helping also will be different. When you don't have that wisdom, then you might end up yourself and others in the process of that help because your love is there, but that love is a little bit contaminated, and moreover, you don't have the wisdom. So that's the difference. But in the case of our ordinary compassion, as His Holiness the Dalai Lama says, that how superficial our compassion for other sentient beings is. Even though we talk about compassion towards all sentient beings, we talk about compassion towards all sentient beings. Now, in practical terms, if you see a sentient being who is very famous, sentient beings who are very famous, like somebody who is president, who is prime minister, who is a very famous, Bollywood actor, actress, or Hollywood actor, actress, and things like that. Then when you see these people moving in a very fancy BMW or Mercedes car, you will have no sign of compassion to these people. Instead, you will look mesmerized. How nice if I'm also like that. How can I make a connection to this? Or at least if I get their signature. Can I get signature? You see? There's no trace of compassion towards these people. But His Holiness says if you are somebody who's really understood the limitation and problems in the samsara, then some of these, unfortunately, celebrities, they may have, in the real sense of the term, they may have more problem, more suffering than ordinary people. Because they have very strong competitiveness. They have very strong arrogance, very strong jealousy. You see? Because they're so puffed up with their name, fame, wealth, and so much that they forget every good thing. So therefore, they are more object of compassion than the ordinary, like a poor beggar. The beggar is already fallen. You will develop some compassion, but beggar probably may not be engaging in too many destructive things. And who do many of these destructive things? People in higher circles, unfortunately. People who have the power. they do the most damaging thing, destructive thing. You see? So therefore, I very often I tell people that if you don't have a compassionate and loving heart, I pray that you are illiterate. You don't have much education. Because if you are illiterate and have not much education, the only problem is you will suffer probably. But you will not bring about too much destruction to the life of the rest of the people. But when you don't have this love, compassion, and sense of responsibility, but very intelligent, then you invent destructive nuclear bomb. And we have all those things now. You see. So that's why in Buddhism we talk about the need to have a unified practice of method, skillful method, and wisdom. Skillful method means development of compassion, development of loving kindness, and so forth. But if you look at this origin of this word, skillful method, in Buddhism, we say skillful method means loving kindness, compassion, and so forth. But why do we call this practices like loving kindness, compassion, and a skillful method? And in that case, we can even call wisdom as a skillful method. Skillful method means Buddha came out with a teaching which is universal, which can be used in addressing the problems of everybody. At Buddha's time, there was a village. And one day the villagers from that village came to the Buddha saying that we are a little bit confused. The Buddha said, what happened? He said, we are confused because in our village, one teacher comes and gives a teaching. Then he goes. Then after some time, another teacher comes and actually says that the teaching you have received is wrong. I have the short path, path to quick enlightenment. This is the only path, the best path, the right path. Then he goes. Then another teacher comes, again says a different thing. So we are confused. So how should we deal with this? The Buddha said, listen to all the teachings, but use your common sense. Now, this is very important teaching, but because how many of us try to use our common sense? We are so fond of following somebody without caution, without a second caution. And Buddha was perhaps very few teachers that the world has seen who said that just as the goldsmith judges the gold by cutting, rubbing, and putting it under the fire, similarly you judge my teaching and accept them not because you respect me. He said, judge my teaching. If it is beneficial, then accept it. If not beneficial, just leave it. Because he was confident of what he had found, what he had taught. So use your common sense, he said. He did not say, oh, no, all these teachers are wrong, you just listen to me. So how many teachers there these days who say these things, oh, I am the greatest teacher, They know nothing, unfortunately. Those people who brag about themselves and say many great things. And some of them are so shameless. They say, I'm Buddha. When they are exactly like you and me, and in many cases worse than you in the way they live their life. But because their mind is a little bit intelligent, then they start saying, I'm Buddha. And you will all get enlightenment in one lifetime if you follow me. Even your common sense can tell you that you will not achieve Buddhahood in one lifetime. In our case, for example, look at your anger, look at your stupidity, look at your jealousy. How can you say that you just follow me and you become enlightened, giving false teachings and false, guidance. Buddha was not like that. There was a Zen Roshi who wrote a book on Buddha, and in the first page, he says, if you meet the Buddha on the road, kill him. Which looks very violent, but the Roshi was not trying to become very violent, but he was saying that today, people have this tendency of too much talking about the person, not about the teaching. So there's a kind of personality cult that's forming everywhere, you see. Oh, my teacher is the best. So that's why he said, kill him. And he elaborates this by saying that he never lighted his person. When he was passing away, his followers surrounded him, weeping and cried, now when you go, then the lamp, the light of the world will go, the world will be left into darkness. So to whom we should follow? Can you please appoint a representative? Now if it is any another ordinary teacher, he will immediately say, oh, he is the best, you follow him. But the Buddha did not say that. The Buddha said, I'm gone, my teaching is my representative. The practice of morality is my representative. Living an ethical way of life is my representative. You follow that. He did not want any one person as his representative. So therefore, follow your common sense. And I was talking about this word, skillful means. Skillful means, as I said, the whole teaching of the Buddha is based on law of nature. And based on a clear observance of the existing human condition, what they are aspiring, what they are getting, how they are suffering. He clearly observed that state and then give the teaching. And at that time, also it was a time when a lot of changes were happening, because in that Ganges Valley, the civilization that was happening there in the Ganges Valley, the population was increasing and commercial activities are becoming more and more. And as and when the population increases, as and when many different type people from different religions, different traditions, different cultures come together, you're bound to have a lot of problems and difficulties, as we are seeing so vividly today. So one culture tries to control another culture, one religion tries to control another religion, one who is more powerful tries to control the weaker one. So all those things were happening. And it's also because of this, the Buddha answered by saying, use your common sense. Meaning that you will definitely encounter so many teachers with different understandings. You will encounter so many teachers with different understandings because of their own education background, because of their own culture, because of their habit, and also motivation, so many things. You're bound to encounter these people with different backgrounds. So at that time, the only way you can find out what is proper, what is improper, what is right, what is wrong is using your common sense. Using your common sense. And therefore, his teaching was not based on only to solve the problem of a group there. There are many teachings who originated because of trying to solve a problem in that locality. The Buddhism was not like that. As I said, the Buddha's teaching is based on the law of nature. The law of nature that, as I always said, the law of nature that is written in the rocks, written in the depth of the trees, written in the mind of human and other sentient beings. Law of nature, which everybody has to experience. Doesn't matter whichever culture you follow, whichever religion you follow, whichever language you speak, whichever country you belong to, but the law of nature is a law of nature. There's a pervading law of nature: impermanence, suffering, selflessness, interdependent origination. This is the pervading law of nature. So when you confront this pervading law of nature with your emotional ups and downs, how are you going to cope with that? It's just like a person who is tossed around in the web of oceans, you see. When you are tossed around in the wave, in the ocean, on the surface of the ocean, there are a lot of waves coming. How would you deal with that? If you look at the surfers, swimmers, they will clearly tell you that it is going in accordance with the wave that you can swim, that you can surf. Going against them, if you go against them, you will be killed. You see? And look at the trees. When there's a strong wind, most of the trees who gently bend, they never get destroyed or uprooted. But the tree which stands erect and does not move, it's not flexible, it's destroyed. So if you remain inflexible and try to stand against the law of nature by saying things exist permanently, and so forth, naturally you will suffer. Naturally you will get problem. Does it make sense? So therefore, in order to remove the sufferings, we need to remove this countless misperceptions, and at least the 4 misperceptions that I already explained to you. Misperception. Therefore, he came with these 4 features of the Four Noble Truth: impermanent, suffering, voidness or emptiness, and selflessness. Clear? Sort of. Now you need to need to read more book, especially by His Holiness Dalai Lama, and then think more. Yeah.
You explain more about the emptiness.
Emptiness is empty of independent existence. Oh, sorry. Now you're asking different question. Here, when we say emptiness, is not the regular emptiness that we are talking about in the Prasangika Madhyamika. Here, the word emptiness means empty of, a person who is pure and clean, empty of existence, a person who is pure and clean and existing independently. That kind of person is not there. Because this is an antidote to the perception of seeing oneself as existing inherently and also pure, clean. So that kind of person is non-existent, empty. That's the meaning.
This is of the Four Noble Truths. This is the ancient of
The third feature.
the feature of the First Noble Truth.
Exactly. First feature. Yeah, I'm right now talking about the 4 features. 4 features of the truth of the suffering. Yes.
I did not understand what you explained.
I said that normally the third one, we have this tendency of seeing oneself as existing inherently from its own side, okay, and also completely clean and pure. So that's misperception. Wrong idea.
Okay.
Wrong idea. Because the reality is, as I said, you are made up of 36 or 30, so do I feel the substances. So the right perception is to see the body as it is. Okay. Then before we go down, the real meaning of emptiness, as I explained earlier, things exist, do not exist independently. So that lack of independent existence is called emptiness. So emptiness is not equal to nothingness. Emptiness means empty of independent existence. Things exist, do not exist independently. Therefore, this non-existence of independent existence is called emptiness. In other words, emptiness and dependent origination are two sides of the same coin. This side we say emptiness. Why empty? Empty of independent existence. Things exist, do not exist independently. Therefore, the other side is things exist dependently. Things exist dependently. Therefore, they are empty of independent existence. Things exist dependently. Therefore, there is no independent existence. So, therefore, this having no independent existence is called emptiness. So, therefore, emptiness is not equal to nothingness. Clear? This is very important. Emptiness is like zero. Zero. Mathematical calculation, zero. We think zero has no value, but without zero, you can't function. How can you write 10 without zero? How can you write 100 without zero? So, in fact, the whole mathematical calculation starts from the concept of zero. With this concept of zero, you are able to do all other higher mathematical calculations. So, therefore, similarly, it is because this concept of emptiness, dependent origination, that things come into being. Because things are dependent. So, through dependence, they can produce fruit. They can produce fruit. If everything exists independently right from the beginning, there's nothing we can do. It's the way things are. If it is black and black, it will never become white. White will never become good, good all the time, good, bad all the time, bad. No way you can bring about any change because the way things are. But the reality is things are dependent. So because of this dependence, you can create so many things. So therefore, Nagarjuna said, to whom emptiness is possible, everything is possible. To whom emptiness is not possible, nothing is possible. To whom emptiness is possible, everything is possible. To whom emptiness is not possible, nothing is possible. That's the meaning. Okay. So these are the four features of the Four Noble Truth. In the Buddhist etymology also, it says that Buddha is the real protector. Buddha is the real protector for those sentient beings who desire liberation, who desire freedom, because he has unmistakably and correctly taught the way of the Four Noble Truths. This is interesting. This is something that you must make a note of. The Buddha is the protector for those desiring liberation or freedom, because he had perfectly taught, unmistakably taught the way of the functioning of the Four Noble Truth. Clear? In one of the teachings of the Buddha, in one sutra, the Buddha says, the Buddha himself says, the Buddhas do not wash the sins of sentient beings with their hand. The Buddhas do not wash the sins of sentient beings, the wrongdoings of sentient beings, with their hands. The Buddhas do not remove the sufferings of the sentient beings with their hand also. The Buddhas do not remove the sufferings of sentient beings with their hand. The Buddhas cannot transfer their realization and knowledge into the minds of sentient beings. The Buddhas can help sentient beings by showing the truth of suchness. the truth of the way things are. You see, this is a big, big statement because the Buddha says the Buddhas do not wash the sins of sentient beings with water. Buddha is not somebody who does magic, He is not the creator of your happiness and your suffering. So when he sees your suffering, he comes with some blessed water and sprinkle on your head and all sufferings are gone. It's not like that. When we go for tantric initiation, the Lama distributes some water. It has its own efficacy, its own benefit. But to think that all my problems will be gone just by this, without doing my homework, is wrong.
No miracles,
No miracles. Miracles, yes, but
only the truth.
real miracle is in your mind. The real magician is in your mind. The creator of everything is in your mind. You are the magic man, magic woman. Okay. So, and the Buddha said, the Buddha is enlightened person, omniscient person. But by seeing the sufferings of sentient beings, the Buddhas cannot, however compassionate they are, the Buddha cannot say that, oh, you are suffering because you have no knowledge. Okay, take this knowledge which I have in my head, I put it in your head. He cannot transfer his realization. How can he help? He can help by showing the path of the truth. So that's exactly what this text is saying. The Buddha is the protector of those who desire liberation because he is able to perfectly and unmistakably teach the way of the function of the Four Noble Truth to those who desire liberation. That is also the meaning of self is the protector of the self, no one else can be the protector. If you practice, self is the enemy of the self, no one else can be the enemy. If you keep on doing the bad things continuously, you will do the greatest damage to yourself through your own action, not by the action of others. The others, however bad and mean they are, they have very, very limited control over you. But your mind is there 24 hours with you. Imagine if that is negative, destructive. You can suffocate yourself. You can make your life totally miserable. And there are people who have really suffered a lot. I know some writers who are really good writers who have suffered a lot by this wrong idea of getting all the peace and happiness by marriage, relationship, this, that, and not getting it. She used to say that almost like year after year, she was in depression. She was in sadness. She was lamenting all the time. But then she pulled up enough courage to say that, okay, now let me do it. At least I should try to do it differently. Then she approached the other method of using her own mind capacity. And then now she is not only writing, a general article, but she's writing in a, in those journals which provide holistic health for people, happiness for people. You see. So that if you just look around and talk to people, you will find so many people who, based on their, not only the Buddha's teaching, but based on their life's experience, were able to say that the key to magic and mystery is in your hand, not in the hand of other people. That's what he's saying. So therefore now you can clearly see how important it is to understand these Four Noble Truths, each of which 4 features. In the case of the first noble truth, the truth of the suffering, we call it impermanent. 4 features I explained earlier. It is impermanent because it is produced by causes and conditions. Causes and conditions. Now, again, this is a big statement. Causes and conditions. All our experiences, emotions, produced by causes and conditions. And as I already explained, that when we talk about impermanence, it's not enough to know that the rock is impermanent, house is impermanent. We don't have much to do with that. It is important to understand that, but the most important thing that is that your life is impermanent. Your life is in stake. There are some very severe problems going on, which needs urgent solution. Not that you can wait, Okay, first I will finish my university. Okay, then I get a job. Okay, then I get married. Have this much children, this much money. Then I will be happy. This is, whether you say it or not, this is how we generally plan our life. But the Buddhist teaching says, no, wrong. Happiness you have to cultivate right now. Happiness is not a rainbow, which looks beautiful at a distance. The closer you go, the more it will disappear and thinner. Happiness is not a rainbow. Happiness you need to grow under your feet right now. You need to learn this technique of being happy right now. And that is so important for us. When people are not told this, people think that, oh, if I practice Buddhism, but I'm not so sure when I will get liberation, when I will achieve enlightenment, you see. And to be honest, to get liberated, to achieve liberation and enlightenment is almost an impossible task. Almost. But that should not discourage you, because you are going to be happier right now. And you have the opportunity to help others right now. And what does the Buddha do when he becomes Buddha? Helping others. So you don't have to wait until you become Buddha to help others. You see, in terms of helping, you may not be as good as the Buddha, but at least you can partially fulfill that job, doing things right now. Even if you become Buddha, the purpose is to be able to benefit others. The purpose is to be peaceful and happy. And you can do a part of that right now. How can you be happy right now? You can be happy right now because if you change your mental attitude and mental perception, you can be happy right now. As I said, much of the problem is our own creation, the way we think. When your mind is wrong, even when she looks at me, oh, she is looking at me like that. Even he smiles at me, you get suspicious. How is he smiling at me like this? You see? When your mind is wrong. When your mind is wrong, even when I am sitting here quietly chanting Om Tare Tu Tare Ture Soa, you may be thinking, oh, he's saying many bad things to me. It's your mind is creating so many things. Exaggeration, denial, falling into one of the extremes. So therefore, if you cultivate this very strong, positive mental outlook, then you cannot be easily tossed around by the fluctuations of the time, environment, and relationship. Therefore, the Buddha said that you should not let your mind become like a feather of the bird, which can be easily tossed around by a slight blow of wind. Your mind should not be like a feather of the bird, which can be tossed around so easily by a slight blow of the wind. With a slight blow of the wind. In today's world, people experience so much ups and downs, high and low. One moment, so happy, ha 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 ha, he, over the moon, And then as you get so excited, you also get arrogant. The next moment when you encounter a little bit of difficulty and problem, you're completely deflated. Just like the balloon, balloon. One occasion is completely inflated. There's no possibility for you to put water on it. It will just run down. Another moment completely deflated. But if you are somebody who has some understanding of this Buddhist teaching, like the middle way teaching, then if you hear good news, you will happy. You will be happy, but not too excited, because you know the news is waiting. That's the way life is. If you get bad news, you will feel sad, but not completely deflated, because you know good news is waiting, number one. Number two, bad news, the so-called bad news, is very much dependent upon how you receive it. It may not necessarily be bad. It may be providing you an opportunity to learn the reality, learn the fact. So therefore, in all situations, ups and downs, in all turbulences, you will be able to remain steady. Then your blood pressure will be normal. Yeah, scientifically, your blood pressure will be normal. And you will be able to laugh in all situations. It's easier said than done, but there's the only way. If there's a better solution, there's a challenge that I offer to other people with this kind of sitting and talking and reflecting about Buddha's teaching. It's really the only solution if you are looking for their long-lasting peace and happiness. But if you find another way better than this, be it money, be it relationship, or be it any other way, if you're 100% sure that that other method is much better, go for it. Go for it, because we are looking for that long-lasting peace and happiness. We are looking for a method to achieve it. But then at the end of the day, you read the philosophy, right from Western philosophy, right from Aristotle, Socrates, you read those, Heraclitus, read the Buddha's teaching, read some of the works of people who did really thinking, including Einstein. You see, Einstein was not a spiritual, not a religious person, not necessarily, but I think he's a very spiritual. Because he clearly said, there's one page that I normally distribute, write up by Einstein, but I did not bring this time. So where he says that person who is obsessed with name and fame, person who is obsessed with operation, and he said, I hate these things. Somebody who would really explore the nature, how it is functioning, got a sense, got an idea, how harmony, how non-violence, how compassion is so important. I read that page. I really felt, oh, he's almost like a Buddhist teacher. And the way he said is so powerful. Now I don't remember everything. I used to remember a part of it, you see. So powerful. So he was talking about truth, beauty, and love or something. You see. So that's what I'm saying. So it's the way things are, People who had explored the nature, they'll more or less come to the same conclusion. That you should not use violence, that you should live in harmony. That's their conclusion, their finding. And then thinkers like Socrates, he always encouraged people to think for themselves, to question everything. And because of his questioning too much, he was later on, killed by making him drink that poison prepared from hemlock or something. Yeah. So there are many cases like that. And then this man Heraclitus. Have you heard about this Heraclitus? I really felt he is a bodhisattva. And I take his book almost everywhere I go. You will be surprised that the wisdom that he is sharing, amazing, amazing. The deeper process of removing the suffering and afflictive emotions he may not have taught, but the general process of living is exactly like what the Buddha has taught. So therefore, these Buddhist, they are commonsensical. They are based on logic or reason. So therefore, in our own case also, it's really important to use the logic and reason. So therefore, here also we say that things are impermanent because they arose from their causes and conditions. Causes and conditions. And in our case, the causes and conditions are afflictive emotion and contaminated action. So therefore, we cannot have happiness. So therefore, the second point is that we are in the suffering nature because we are overpowered by contaminated action and afflictive emotions. And empty because there is no ruler, a separate, independently existent ruler, which is pure and clean. And selfless because there is no independently existing self. And then in this particular text, Lamrim talks about the all-pervasive suffering. All-pervasive suffering. We spoke about suffering of suffering. Now, in the case of the suffering of suffering, there will be a lot of things explained here. But so, for example, here he talks about the suffering of the sentient beings in the three bad migrations. Sentient beings in the hell realm, in the hungry ghost realm, and in the realm of animals. We may not have much idea about the hell realm and the hungry ghost, but in the case of the animals, we can easily appreciate and how much they are suffering. For example, it says that the general common suffering of the animals is that they would kill each other and eat each other, which you can now easily see in the National Geography channel. There are so many channels on animals. You can see how they are bullying and killing each other. So there is suffering. And then they suffer from great ignorance and stupidity, especially compared to human beings. They are very, very stupid. And then suffering of heat and cold, suffering from heat and cold. Now, human beings, if it is hot, we live in air-conditioned room. If it is too cold, then again we use air condition to warm up the room. Now look at the animals. You see. So you can imagine if we are born like one of these animals. There's so many sufferings mentioned there. Then in the case of the sufferings of the human beings, because when you talk about the truth of the suffering, we need to reflect on this a little bit. So the more important pertinent thing is to reflect about the sufferings of human beings. What are the general sufferings within the samsara and what are the individual sufferings? Now, the general suffering that is there with all sentient beings is, first of all, there is this fault and disadvantage of uncertainty. We are suffering from uncertainty. Suffering from uncertainty. There is nothing certain in terms of relationship. There is uncertainty. In terms of death, there is uncertainty. Full of uncertainty. We cannot say, oh, this is certain, that it will solve the problem. A lot of uncertainty. So suffering from uncertainty. And the suffering or fault of having no satisfaction. No satisfaction. Because of excessive desire. We have so much desire that desire is like drinking salty water. The more you drink, the more you get thirsty. And especially in today's world, there are teachings, people who say that, oh, if you want to get angry, then it will be gone. Express it. In today's psychology and many others, they say express it. The Buddhist teachings say no. If you let anger come, there's not, it will go like that. It will leave an imprint. The more and more you get angry, the more you will get habituated with that anger. And you will never know when the anger is going to come, because it will happen that it will remain dormant there, ready to come out any moment. With the slightest provocation, it will come out. So don't make it a habit. That's what the Buddhist teaching say. So all these problems are because of lack of contentment, lack of satisfaction. Want more. How much more? How much is enough? For example, in terms of money, how much money you need? No, tell me, please. You have more experience than me. How much money you need?
More.
No. How much money you
Max
need?
more.
The exact number. Around how much money you need to live and survive in Israel?
For one,
For months?
For a month, yeah. How much you need? For a month, how much you need?
7,
10,000?
10,000. 10,000 shekels.
7 or 10.
Okay, then for your life, if you have just monthly income, is that enough? You should have more for your life. It's not so sure what will happen in my life, you see. So when I become old, I will not be able to work, I need money. So how much you should save, you see. All these things are there. All these things are there. But again, there is a reasonable state where it is okay to expect certain amount of, facilities or money. But there is a limit. There should be a limit. You see, beyond that limit, is, I would say, having no satisfaction. Then the drawback and shortcoming of this body having to die again and again. You die and then take rebirth. You die and take rebirth. So long as you're in the samsara, you will be recycled, again and again. And then every time you are born, again you have to conceive in the womb of the mother. Then grow old, then die, then again you. So how many times you have to conceive in the womb of the mother? No end to it. And then too much ups and the fault of having too much ups and downs, as I already explained. Yeah.
It's so good and interesting, but we have to stop
Oh, sorry.
because lunch is at 12.
Oh,
Unfortunately,
fortunately, that's not unfortunate.
and I would like to ask you what you